All right, so this is part 2. In this video, we're going to get into why the divine feminine is veiled in Christianity, and also how does the matrix benefit from that, right? Like, what's the purpose? Why are they even veiling it? Why is it even something that we're looking up and having to put correlations with each other, right? So, the first reason why the divine feminine energy is veiled within Christianity is because patriarchal structures, right? When Christianity was forming into an organized religion, most of the leadership was male. And even, excuse me. And even when we think back to even just that time when they were, it was a crime to be a witch and all that, and they were getting in trouble for that. They were shifting the energy into that religious energy away from their normal practices. So this was a time where culturally male authority was more dominant, right? And when we think about male authority, it equals like that visible energy, that codified, enforceable. Then the feminine wisdom aspect shows up as subtle, intuitive, experimental, relational, right? So the result with the feminine was symbolically present, but institutionally minimized. Why is that? In my opinion, what we don't speak about, what we don't acknowledge, we forget, right? So, and wanting us to forget, okay? So, yeah. And society tends to fear what can't be easily controlled. And the divine feminine is inherently uncontainable, right? We even think about water. So the feminine embodies desire, creation, emotional depth, and transformation. And when you really think about it, these powerful energies cannot be tamed or fully rationalized. And we live in a society where they want us to be able to rationalize everything, and everything's supposed to have some type of logical, reason or label. So you can understand why, where the society they wanted to build or have built, that energy really doesn't mix, right? And if the feminine is openly acknowledged as equal or higher, it shifts the hierarchy. It shifts the whole narrative, right? So historically, it was veiled to preserve that patriarchal power, right? Not because it's essential, but to preserve that power. Because if I don't tell you about it, then you may not ever find it, right? And a lot of times, too, with the Bible, you really have to be able to read in between the lines so that you can really get the true essence and meaning of what is in certain ancient texts, right? You have to be able to decode the symbolism. And the veiling isn't an absence, it's a protective cloak, right? Because also when you think about it at the same time, everything is divine. We may be in a society where people can't really hold that power unless they first go through those spiritual journey of evolution, and because it's a journey to discover this knowledge, right? And the energy still moves beneath the surface, waiting for those attuned enough to find it. And the third thing, when it comes to mystical traditions, knowledge of the feminine was considered sacred, right? Only initiates could access it safely. And this is what we were speaking about, I think, in yesterday's video, about how knowledge and everything is so much easier to attain, but still many don't find it. So overall, in this aspect, when we look at it, the divine feminine is veiled because it's powerful, fluid, and uncontainable. And the systems that humans create, societies, religions, institutions, are often rigid, right? The masculine is more codified, linear, visible, when the feminine is energetically intuitive, cyclical, and transformative. Veiling ensures that the energy remains alive for those who are willing to journey inward at this time. And soon, hopefully that the good news will be spread. And more people will wake up to the divine reason of this all came from the divine feminine, right? And start to integrate that and create from that transformative energy. Now, the second part of this video, so this part is going to be about how do they benefit from that, right? What's the purpose? So when it comes to the energetic mechanics behind societal control. And when we talk about the matrix, aka the collective systems of control, right? Social, religious, political, financial, and cultural, that keep people aligned with certain narratives. And I want y'all to think about, before we even speak and dive into this and those reasons, think about how the Epstein files are shaking those narratives, right? So at the same time too, how energy could be harvested by certain type of narratives. Okay, so the first reason is it suppresses the full human potential, because the divine feminine represents what? Your intuition, your emotional intelligence, your creative power, connection to natural cycles. So if the energy is veiled, people are less attuned to their inner knowing, right? They rely on external authorities to tell them what to do at that point. They may feel incomplete or disconnected from themselves, right? And the matrix benefits from this because it's easier to influence, guide, or manipulate individuals because they're out of touch with their own power, constantly leaning on what's next and what to be told to do. And a lot of times too, this will show up, it's not really conscious, it's subconscious, where just like how you could be in a paradigm blindness or get into a program and you just subconsciously are doing it because you've just been doing it for so long. It could show up a lot of ways like that because it's not really so much conscious. This is more so of the subconscious. This is like what's in the hidden. Just as it's veiled, this is veiled as well. The second thing is that it keeps people in linear thinking, like that masculine thinking, right? Masculine dominated structures emphasize logic over intuition, productivity over presence, competition over collaboration. So the feminine energy, if it was fully expressed, introduces cycles, flow, relational intelligence, right? And if you think about just cycles, that brings a sense of balance. How we're talking about the Ishtar in the part 1 of this video. That cycle of rebirth, right? After going through the cycle of death and different cycles. So you'll be more in alignment with your energy if you are in your feminine more. So that's why that energy is veiled. And it really also takes away from the relational intelligence, which break linear predictable patterns. Okay, so thinking about linear thinking, that equals predictability. Predictability equals easier governance and control, right? So you can see how they would benefit from it, right? Now, the third thing, maintains ego-driven scarcity, because this is like the rat race theme too. The feminine energy is inherently creative and regenerative. It taps into abundance, cycles, and intuitive manifestation. So competition is something that really won't last if the feminine energy is balanced, right? And when repressed, people chase wealth, status, and approval outside themselves. And it just also just really hikes up the competitive nature in everything, which also leads to what? More scarcity mindset, which leads to lack. So overall, the matrix benefits because people remain in scarcity consciousness, consuming and striving, which feeds the economic and societal system. And a really good example of that to think about would be the healthcare system, right? That we're not going to say too much more. All right, number 4, it limits your spiritual autonomy. The feminine is tied to inner authority, embodiment, and direct spiritual experience. Veiling the feminine makes people dependent on external structures for truth and morality. So if somebody else is telling you your truth and what's your morals, you really you won't know yourself, right? You'll be detached and you will always seek that and need that or think you do, right? Spiritual power remains gate-kept. Okay, so the matrix benefits from this because when spiritual autonomy is limited, systems can dictate belief, guilt, and compliance. Number 5, keeps desire unaligned, right? That's what we were talking about earlier. It keeps you unaligned because you're going to be in that scarcity mindset, needing more, out of alignment. When the feminine energy is suppressed, the veiled feminine suppresses, like, so when the energy of the feminine is veiled, it suppresses that sexual sovereignty, that emotional authenticity, and creative expression, right? Desire is misdirected towards consumption, performance, or distraction instead of actual self-empowerment. What's a good example of this? Corn, okay? So overall, when feminine energy is hidden or undervalued, people are out of touch with their intuition. They seek validation externally, and they chase linear goals over soul-aligned ones. And it's something I want you to think about too, even in your own life. Because where does that show up for you? Think about that. Even maybe take time to journal that. But control systems thrive because empowered, fully embodied humans are unpredictable and sovereign. Hard to manipulate, right? Because when you're sovereign, you don't need. And what sovereign means, a sovereign is a supreme ruler, right? Or a state with independent authority and self-governing power. What's spiritual sovereignty? Governing your own spirituality, right? Because this is your own spiritual journey. So, are you sovereign? Leave y'all with that question. Are you sovereign? Are you spiritually sovereign? Are you governing yourself, or who's governing yourself, right? All right. Peace, you guys. I will see you guys in the next one. Let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. And stay tuned. We will have a whole new reading list for April. And get ready for the group ritual for Ishtar as well. Peace.